next and a very, very interesting topic. This topic is actually, very confusing. A lot of us do not understand debt that really well. To demystify debt and to understand the better movement and the impact of yield curve, today we have with us Mr. Keerthan Shah, a very, very successful young MFD who's consented to come and give a fantastic presentation on yield curve and its impact on market, which is very, very relevant given the context of what is happening across the globe currently. You need to really pay keen attention to what he is going to say. Over to you, Mr. Keerthan Shah.
Hi guys, thank you so much IFA Galaxy for inviting me to be a part of this particular session. I'm extremely delighted to be given this opportunity to talk to this august audience. My topic is, in my opinion, extremely relevant to what is happening in the markets currently. Everybody around is talking about yield spiking in the US, yield curve becoming slightly more steep, yields also going up in India, and because of which you see gold going down, you've seen equity markets going down, and it is actually the most relevant topic around equity markets, or rather I would say capital markets at this point in time. I'm very quickly over a 20-minute going to be able to drive you all through the basic nuances that you really have to keep in mind to make sure that most of us are able to relate to what yield curves are. How do you look at the yield curve? And at the same time, how do you actually use the yield curve to do mutual fund investing? And I hope by the end of the session, most of us will be able to relate to the topic and would be able to take a lot of cognizance of whatever I've taught you to really be able to relate this to the real world and be able to practically help clients negotiate the volatility in the debt markets. So first I'm going to help you all understand some history out of which we are going to derive some extremely important data points. Now what you see in front of you is a 25-year chart of yields. Now what is yield curve? Yield curve in very simple context is nothing but telling you that if you invest, how much return will you get in the debt markets right now? So to give you an example, this curve shows you that had you invested in 2000, you would have got a yield close to 11 odd percent, right? I'm not looking at the exact specifics, but let's say had you invested in 2014, you would have got roughly 9% odd in your investment had you invested in the 10-year GSEC, because this chart is for the 10-year GSEC. So the yield curve is nothing but this particular line which tells you that if you invest, what is the kind of return that you can expect out of the fixed income market at this point in time. Now there is a very specific thing that I really want you to understand, for which I've shown you this 25-year-old chart, is to help you understand how yields in India have been falling exactly the way how yields globally also fall. So if you see during 1996 to 1998, the yields were as high as 14.5%. And you've seen over a period of time, yields keep dropping in India, and currently you are at somewhere around 6.2% kind of a yield on the 10-year GSEC. So yields in India, like globally, would keep falling over a period of time is the first understanding that I really want everybody to have while we look at this 25-year-old chart. Now the other two charts are extremely important because that is going to drive the data points and the relationship that I really want to talk about in this particular discussion with all of us. Now, if you look at the last 10 years, you would observe two extremely important things. Over the last 10 years, you would see that yields have topped out at a particular range. So if you see in 2012, also yield topped out at close to 9%. You would see in 2014-15 area, also yields topped out at close to 9%, right? So if you look at the last 10 years, the last 10 years tells you that yields typically tops out at 9% on the higher side. Now, what happens on the lower side? If you see on the lower side, yields generally, look at this entire range from 2017 to 2020. Yields generally bottomed out here somewhere around 6.5%. Of course, in 2020 to 2021, we saw yields going down significantly, but it was an event risk of Corona. If you eradicate the event risk of Corona, you would understand that between 2017 and 2020, yields typically bottomed out at close to 6 odd percent. So if you look at the last 10 years data point, yields have topped out at close to 9% and yields have bottomed out at close to 6%. Now, this is what the last 10 year is helping us understand. Let's look at the more near-term picture, which is the last 5 years. Now, if you look at the last 5 years data point, it'll again show you something very, very similar. Now, look, where has over the last 5 years yields topped out? So, if you see, yields have topped out somewhere around 8% here, right? See, 8%. So, yields have topped out around 8% over the last 5 years, and the yields have bottomed out around 5.8 or 6%, right? So there are three things that we've conveyed or discussed so far. We looked at the 25-year yield curve, right? First we said, what's a yield curve? We said yield curve is nothing but it's a line which shows you that if you invest at a particular point, how much return can you expect? Then we said over a 25-year period, we've seen yields fall. And that's how it happens globally. From 25 years from today, you will see yields much lower than what yields are today in India also. That's how it works. Now, if you look at the last 10 years and the last 5 years, we've identified that over last 10 years, yields have topped out at a range and yields have bottomed out at a range. We saw that in 10 years also, and we saw that in 5 years also. Now, what I want you to understand is this is the bottom line I want all of us to take back home while we talk about yields today. So we are saying, while I looked at the last 10 years, the top for yields was roughly 9%, the bottom was 6%. If I look at the last 5 years, I would say the top is 8.2% and the bottom is 5.8%. Now, there are two things that I really want to make here. First is, I want all of us to understand that there is a pattern that the yield curve follows. It tops out at a point and it bottoms out at a point, right? We've understood that it tops out. If I look at the last 10 years at 9, if I look at the last 5 years around 8.2, and it bottoms out the same way at 6 and 5.8. The second thing I want you to understand here is, because we've understood that over 25 period, we've seen how yields fall, you will see a relationship that the topping out and the bottoming out process is also coming down. So when I looked at the last 10-year data point, topping out was 9, bottoming out was 6. But when I looked at the last 5 years, yields have come down further. So now the topping out process happens at 8.2 and the bottoming out process happens at 5.8. So what am I saying? If you want to be able to understand what will happen to yields probably 5 years from today, then you might see that yields might now top out around 8% and might bottom out around 5.5%. That can be your new range to work with over the next 5 years. Now, how does this data really help us? And in my opinion, this is the most important thing that we have to understand while we are looking at yield curves. Now, all of us know when yields in the markets go up, right? You, depending on the modified duration of your fund, your NAV of the fund falls. So if the yield is going up and the modified duration of your fund is higher, the NAV will fall more. And if the yield is going up, but your modified duration of the fund is lower, the NAV will fall, but the NAV will fall slightly less. Now, this inverse relationship between yields going up and NAV falling is known to all of us. Now, how can we use the yield curve data point to be able to understand when to offer what kind of a product, right? Is what I want to drive home as a discussion in whatever we've understood so far. So in my opinion, currently, if you try and understand how can the next 5 years be projected or how can the next 5 years look like, the first point that I really want to make is that probably the topping out and the bottoming out process that we understood here will become lower. So like in 10 years, it was 9 and 6, but in 5 years, it became 8.2 and 5.8. The next 5 years, it may look slightly lower. So the top out and the bottom out in the next 5 years may look slightly lower. So I want us to work with this data point to be able to figure out how do we position investing in the fixed income. Very simply put, now we are saying that probably 5.5 to 6% is where the bottoming out process will happen over the next 5 years. And we are saying 8.5 on the higher side is where the topping out will happen over the next 5 years, right? Now, look, I'm not giving you or telling you that this is exactly the price at which it will bottom out or the yields at which it will top out, but I'm giving you a fair range of what I understand looking at the last 25, 10-year, 5-year data, that if we want to look at when will yields bottom out over the next 5 years, we are saying every time the yield reaches 5.5, 6% on the 10-year GSEC, probably it will bottom out. And every time the yield will reach 8, 8.5 at the top end, yields will top out. Now, how do we use this data point to go ahead and recommend funds? Very simple. If you think that the yields are close to 5.5, 6, we know that the yields have bottomed out, which means yields are not going to fall any below than this, which means either the yields will stay constant or yields will start moving up. The probability of yields start moving up is always going to be more than the probability of yields staying constant. Look, yields cannot stay constant over a period of time in a growing economy. So it might stay sideways for some time, but in a quarter or two, yields will have to start moving up. So we are saying that if you see the 10-year GSEC around 5.5, 6%, you have to assume that yields have bottomed out. And from here on, yield is supposed to go up. If yields go up, all of us know that if yields go up, NAVs of our debt funds are supposed to fall, and that is negative. More the modified duration of the fund, more the fall, and hence, whenever you see over the next 3 years, 5 years, yields close to 5.5%, 6% on the 10-year GSEC, make sure that you are keeping your duration low while you are recommending funds. So while you see yields bottoming out around 5.5, 6, always make sure that you are giving your clients ultra short-term funds, money market funds, liquid funds, because those are the right kind of products to offer to the client. Because from there on, yields are supposed to move up, and you would always want to make sure that the duration is lower so that the capital loss on the fund is going to be much lower. Similarly, whenever over the next 3 or 5 year you see yields going up to 8, 8.5, that is where you will assume, looking at the last 25 years, 10 years, 5 years data, that probably that is the time or that's the space in which yields are going to top out. Top out means yields are not going to go more than this, and hence either yield will stay at that price or yield will start coming down from there on. So whenever you see yields around 8, 8.5 in the near future, 3 years, 5 years, is the time that you will have to understand that yields have topped out, and that is exactly the time you would start giving higher duration funds to your clients. Why? Because if 8, 8.5 yields have topped out, right, then the way yields are supposed to move in the near term then is yields will start falling. If yield starts falling, we know NAV of the fund is supposed to go up. Which funds NAV will go up more? The fund which has high duration. And hence, what I would want to recommend all of y'all to keep in mind using this yield curve as a concept is that yield curves move in a range. That range, of course, will keep falling over a period of time. At one point in time, it was 9% and 6%. Then probably it became 8% and 6% or 5.8. So yield curves over a period of time, or this range over a period of time, will keep falling. In my opinion, over the next 3 years, 5 years, the range can be 5.5, 6 on the lower side and 8, 8.5 on the higher side. So whenever you see yields falling to 5, 5.5, 6, you know yields are not going to go down further. So keep your duration low and sell low duration funds, money market funds, ultra short term funds, liquid funds, because you don't want yields to go up and you ending up losing on mark to market valuations on the fund. And similarly, if you end up reaching 8.5% on the yield on the 10-year, probably that's the top, and that is where you start selling high duration funds like Gilt, 10-year constant maturity, medium duration funds, because you know from there on yields are supposed to come down, and when yields will come down, you will make capital gains, and you will make higher capital gains when you sell higher modified duration funds. And this is what I want all of us to keep in mind. Of course, like I said, this range might keep coming down over a period of time. You might have to just keep a track of it. It does not come down very drastically like you saw right in my last slide, but the range is 5.5 to 8.5 types, or 6 to 8 types right now. Make sure that lower the yields on the 10-year GSEC, you sell low duration funds. Higher the yield on the 10-year GSEC, you sell high duration funds. That is how you are going to be in a position to make sure that your client is invested in the right kind of product at the right time. Now, what should you do currently? So currently, like you know that yields in India hit 5.8% and now they are back to 6.2. So like I just explained to you that the bottom is 5.5, 6, right? If the 10-year GSEC yield today is 6.2, I think the yields have hit a bottom. And in my opinion, yields are not going to fall below the 6.2 that you see the yields today currently. And hence, I would want to position all the investments in low duration funds right now, because yields from here have only one way to go, which is up. Will it happen immediately? We don't know. But over 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, you will start seeing that these yields will start shooting up. And you don't want to be positioned in high duration funds because you will have more capital loss there. So currently, in my opinion, yields have bottomed out in India. And the only way the yields will go over 2 quarters, 3 quarters from here on is up. Why do I make that comment? In my opinion, the answer is very simple. The reason why yields are rising domestically and globally also is very simple. Let's say why yields in India are rising. Simple. If you looked at the government budget, I'm sure all of us will realize that the government is borrowing a huge amount of money this year, and government has a huge borrowing calendar the next year, close to 12 lakh crore rupees. Now, if the government, who is going to borrow money from you, right, 12 lakh crore rupees, the government will give you bonds versus the money that the government borrows. This in the market lingo is called that the government will borrow and sell bonds to you. Now imagine if 12 lakh crore worth of bonds are going to be sold in the market, right? Would the bond price go up or down? All of us know when a huge quantity is sold of any particular asset, be it equity, debt, or anything, when you sell such huge quantity of that asset, the price of that asset has to fall, right? So in my opinion, if the government is going to be such a huge borrower, the price is expected to fall. And we know when the price goes down, yield goes up. They are inversely related, which is why in anticipation that the government is going to do such huge borrowing, already market participants have started selling the bonds and you see yields going up. And I see this only continuing in the near future. So the reason why I think bond yields in India are increasing is because the government is coming out with a huge borrowing calendar for this year and the next year. And hence, there's going to be a lot of selling of bonds going to happen in the market and yields are going to spike. Again, if you see what is happening in the US, and you've seen the US 10-year yield hit 1.6 and come down to 1.2, the answer is exactly the same. You've seen the US government printing $1.9 trillion for stimulus, right? Point number one. Again, a huge borrowing from the market, huge number of bonds will have to be sold in the market. Again, what is happening is at the same time, in the US, because of vaccination, the effect of corona has gone down drastically, right? And which is why there is expectation that the economy will come back on track. And because the economy will come back on track, right, the yields are going up in the US is because people are expecting US economy to end up doing well. Both of these factors are leading for the US interest rates to go up, right? Or the US yields to go up. So in my opinion, interest rates in India have bottomed out, and globally as well. Interest rates are going to move up from here, or other yields are going to move up from here, and which is why we should make sure that we do not end up taking duration risk on our investments. My simple suggestion currently in terms of staying invested is try and keep your duration low, right? Is because you don't want to get caught on the wrong foot when interest rates or yields are moving up, and then you have your clients invested in higher modified duration funds. They will end up losing more on the mark to market margin. And another product that you can really invest in my opinion, is the floating rate funds. There are multiple floating rate funds available in the market. What floating rate funds as a concept helps solve this problem is, whenever yields in the market go up, right, these floating funds automatically adjust to the higher yields in the market. What happens in a normal debt fund is, when yields go up, right, because the coupon is not expected to go up, the fund falls or the NAV falls. What happens in a floating rate fund is, when the yields go up, right, these funds, like your floating EMI, is expected to remark itself with a higher coupon, right, and by which it eradicates to a certain extent the rise in interest rate risk. And hence, I'm not saying that probably the entire interest rate risk will be taken care of by floating rate funds, but of course, some part of it definitely will be taken care of by investing in floating rate funds. So keep your durations low, investing in floating rate funds. That is what, in my opinion, all of us should do in this current market situation, till the time you don't see rates topping out at 8.5%, like I explained to you. But make sure that while you have the yields very low, YTMs of funds are going to be low, right? Please do not end up taking credit risk without understanding whether you are okay to take the credit risk or not. What will happen is, at this point in time, because the YTMs are going to be so low, we will end up suggesting funds which have higher YTMs. And the higher YTMs will only come when the fund is taking credit risk. So please make sure that you are understanding the credit risk before you go ahead and offer a fund to your client which has a higher YTM. Because currently, at this point in time, the only way the YTM can be increased is by taking credit risk. Up to AA is considered decent. So if you think your fund has a portfolio of sovereign, AAA, A1 plus, AA, I would regard that as to be very decent rating or credit rated portfolio. But if you see a portfolio heavily skewed below AA, please understand the risk before taking that opportunity, just looking at the higher YTM. One last point, of course, the yields are extremely low, and a lot of us would probably get carried away by investing in bonds directly instead of mutual funds, because these bonds end up paying in the secondary market slightly higher yield. My only submission here is, I'm not saying it is good or bad, but please understand, while you invest in a mutual fund, right, you have a higher diversification and low concentration. So if you invest in a mutual fund, you've invested in 100 bonds, one of those bonds go down, you might not even understand that your NAV has gone down. But if you invest a large part of your investment into one secondary market listed bond, and if that bond goes bust, then a large part of your investment can go bust because of the higher concentration risk that you are taking. I'm not saying that bonds will default. All I'm saying is that if you don't understand how to pick secondary market bonds or bonds from the secondary market, I would still suggest that most of us stick to mutual funds for fixed income investing for ourselves and our clients. By that, I hope I've been able to help you all understand yields. I've been able to help you all understand the topping out and the bottoming out process, when to invest in what kind of a duration fund, what is happening currently in the market, where should you currently be positioned. I hope these things are absolutely clear to you all, and I'm open for more questions. Please shoot, ask me as many as you think are relevant, and I'll be extremely happy to answer in the Q&A section. Thank you so much.
Fantastic talk, Mr. Keerthan and friends. Thank you so much for those barrage of questions that have come. And I have the privilege of having Mr. Keerthan Shah with me here to answer all your questions and keep them coming. But due to paucity of time, it's quite likely that I may not ask all the questions. So we will try and pass it on later to Mr. Keerthan, and then he can kind of reach out with his answers. We'll reach you. First up, Nitin Sawant and Vijay Babu have asked a very similar question, Keerthan. Nitin has this question: how world market interest rates will impact the Indian interest market? And Vijay Babu on a very similar question. So I've combined the two. Is there a correlation between the global yield and the Indian yield? And have you noticed what is the correlation in the last 5 or 10 years? So since both were relating to global and Indian, I thought it would be good for you to kind of take them. Over to you, Keerthan.
Great. So thank you so much. Look, technically speaking, the global yields and the Indian yields move in the same direction. But that also depends on two major factors. First is what is the economy expected to do and how much stimulus is actually given to the market. So to give you an example, from the lows in the global context where the yield was 0.8 and in the Indian context where the yield was 5.8, the Indian yield curve has moved up only 30 bips to 6.1, 6.2. But the global yields have moved up by 80 points, 80 bips, the US one that I'm talking about, from 0.8 to 1.6. That in very simple context says that in the US, a lot of stimulus is given, because of which the revival of economy seems to be much faster. And because the revival seems to be much faster, the yields have gone up much higher. In India, because the fiscal stimulus was lower, the recovery in the economy is expected to be slightly slower. And that is what the yield curve shows, only by moving 30, 40 pips. So look at the yield curve as a front line or a leading indicator to how quickly can you expect the economic recovery. The faster the yield moves up, the faster the economy is expected to revive. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Keerthan. Mr. Phoenix Subramaniam has this question. Now that liquid funds are giving returns of 1 to 3%, hardly any return, where would one park their 3 to 6 months? Would you recommend a short-term bond fund for that kind of a horizon? I think it's a very product-centric question. So, but your thoughts, Mr. Keerthan?
Look, there are two ways I would want to answer this question. I would definitely not want to give a short-term fund for a 3-month horizon or a 6-month horizon. My way of looking at debt fund is very simple. If you go to the bank and you want to do a 2-year fixed deposit, you invest in a 2-year fixed deposit. You don't invest in a 5-year fixed deposit, right? Similarly, if you want to invest for 6 months, identify a fund which has a 6 months average maturity. Because if you are able to identify a fund which has average 6-month maturity, that will meet the maturity or broader maturity of the fund with your time horizon. And that's how you will be able to align your risk with the funds. So to answer the second question, will I give short term? The answer is no. Do I have an alternative? I'm not really sure if we really have alternatives, but I can tell you reinvestment will work in your favor. Is because tomorrow when yields start moving up and the shorter maturity components of the liquid fund like the CP and the CD, one starts getting reinvested, you will start making a higher yield. But for 3 months, 6 months, if you want to really park the money and you are bothered about the low yields, I think you can try some arbitrage funds as well.
Okay, super. Thank you, Mr. Keerthan. Mr. Venkateswaran M has this question. You had earlier mentioned during the course of your talk that the yields on the 10-year GSEC top out at 9% and bottom out at about 5.5 or 6% as the case. So his question is, what can cause this theory to go wrong? That is, at what point or what are the factors that can lead to the yields to go below 5.5? and go down further at all, if at all? So if you could kind of throw light, you did mention that this pandemic was one such occasion, I think, but beyond this, do you see any other factors that could impact these rates?
Look, 2 points to answer this question. First, I'm sure I already made a comment on that this range will typically keep coming down over a period of time. 25 years back, it was 14% and 11%. 10 years back, it was 9 and 6. We saw 5 years back, it is 8 and 5.5. Look, why do yields go down? The simple logic of yields going down is because you want to support the economy. I just answered that question that when yields start going up, the economy recovery is faster. If the yields are falling, the economy recovery is not happening. So whenever there is a situation where the government or the central banks feel that they really need to support the economy, they will make efforts to bring the yields down. So any situation where there can be a problem in the future where the growth is not getting sustained, or the market or the economy really needs some support from the central banks, is when the yields can go down. One example is Corona pandemic, right? You saw the economic situation was worse, and to support the economy, yields had to come down. So at any point in time, you look at the global financial crisis, you look at the dot-com bubble, you look at the currency crisis in Asia. Whenever there is a crisis or an economical challenge, you will always see yields coming down. So any such situation we see in the future, yields might fall below this range.
Thank you. Thank you, Keerthan. That was well answered. We have one question from Mr. Rajshekhar Iyer. It says, for yields between 8 and 8.5, you had mentioned keep the duration high, right? Just to benefit where as the interest rate starts moving down, you will kind of see capital appreciation. So his pointer is, how long can one go on the duration at that point in time? And what are your thoughts on the kind of products and durations that one can look at?
So like I said, I partially answered that question while I was answering short term. Look, there are two ways of doing it. If either you are an investor or you are taking a tactical call. If you are an investor, you have to match the fund's average maturity with your investment time horizon. That's as simple as that. But if you want to take a tactical call, let's say if you think that rates are topping out at 8.5, and you are getting clients to invest in debt and you want to take the tactical call, right, for 3 years, you would want to keep the duration as high as possible, right? Is because a gilt fund with constant maturity, 10-year modified duration, and a medium duration fund which has 5 years modified duration will completely move differently with an interest rate fall. So if 1% fall in yield, the 10-year constant maturity fund can give you 10% capital gains over and above the YTM. There is a medium-term fund which has 5 years of modified duration will give you only 5 years of capital gains, 5% of capital gains. So if you are in it for a tactical game, right, I would suggest keep your duration as high as possible if you are expecting yields to fall.
Thank you. Thank you. I think this question was also about a tactical play. So I think your point was well answered. Sirish Chandra has this question. He said, if I invest across multiple interest rate cycle, does the duration of the fund matter if I don't care about volatility? If I'm not really bothered about volatility and I invest across multiple interest rate cycle, what is is that a problem? Is his question.
So look, there are two ways of answering this question, and I might get slightly technical, but I'll try and answer it in the simplest way. Look, when fund managers don't have a view on where yields are supposed to move, they use something called as a ladder strategy, which is exactly what you just spoke of, and I'm just giving it a technical term. What's a ladder? Imagine you climbing like this, which means what the fund managers will do is invest money at all different maturities, right? Because they don't have a view on the interest rate cycle. So can you adopt this model? Absolutely yes, and it will end up working in your favor. But a simpler model, in my opinion, is that if you're a long-term investor, you are not concerned about mark-to-market, then you might as well stay invested at the larger end of the curve or in higher modified duration funds, because at all point in time, at least the coupon payments that you will keep receiving will be much higher than what you will receive at the shorter end of the curve.
Absolutely. So, Keerthan, just one last question from my end, just to kind of things. So there is this class of fund which we call the floating rate fund. Obviously, a lot of us haven't kind of explored this space very much. Given that we are at a point where interest rates have more or less kind of come down, and we expect now the interest rate movement to kind of turn around and may move back up. That's a scenario, and as per your charts as well, we are in the bottom end of the interest rate curve. So would you expect that some of us need to start focusing a little bit more on the floating rate side? And what is your view on these floating rate funds?
So I've been extremely vocal about floating rate funds. I'm not sure if the audience here is aware, but it was 3 months back that I first spoke about, investing in floating rate funds, because I think the yields have bottomed out. I'm extremely gung-ho about floating rate funds at this point in time, but there is one small understanding that I need the audience should have here is, look, the floating rate fund does not solve your entire purpose. What I mean by it is, if interest rates are supposed to move up, it is not going to happen that the floating rate funds will immediately adjust to the higher increasing yields, right? But it will, to a certain extent, definitely help you negotiate the rising yield problems, which a general fund otherwise would not be able to do. So let's say if you stay invested in a short-term fund and with increase in yield, you might experience a 2% M2M loss on the YTM. In a floating rate fund, you probably might be close to zero, or you might just experience 0.2 down or 0.5 down. That's how I think it will be able to negotiate and do a much better work or a job in terms of your expectation versus a plain simple vanilla fund otherwise.
So would it be right to therefore summarize that a floating rate fund will be more like a risk management tool from your perspective, from what you mentioned?
Absolutely. But again, make sure that you don't get into floating rate funds if your time horizon does not match the average maturity of the fund. Or the other way around, make sure that you invest in floating rate funds which have very low average maturity / modified duration.
Fair enough. Thank you so much, Mr. Keerthan Shah, for your lovely presentation and also this wonderful Q&A. I think a lot of questions got answered. I, of course, couldn't ask a lot of questions because some of those questions need to be directed to the RBI governor. Some people are asking about what is your take on the next 2-year repo rate. So I have avoided those questions. But by and large, thank you so much for sparing your time and being with us, Keerthan.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
What a lucid presentation that one. Could there be an effective presentation, more effective presentation to understand the movement of yield curve and its impact on the bond market and the overall market? No. I have never listened to such a fantastic yet very, very clear and lucid presentation. Thank you so much, Mr. Keerthan Shah.